Hello there and welcome to episode 92 of Little Big Knits. My name is Selma. I'm your host, known as Selma Knits on Instagram and Ravelry. I am coming to you from Ottawa, Canada. So welcome. We have a rather dreary day here, but I think that there is enough light for me to podcast. We have a tree in front, and certainly in the summer, if it's a gray day and the tree is full of leaves, it gets a little dark in here. But yeah, we've had a very, very mild winter. I would say possibly the mildest winter on record for this area of the city. You may know that the eastern coast of Canada had a whopper of a snowstorm last week, up to 150 centimeters, which is about almost 5 feet of snow. Yeah, it's been a strange winter with different things happening in different places, which is not unusual, but we have definitely had a very, very mild winter. So that is the weather report for the day. Hello. Back at you with some knitting and all knitting goodness and all that jazz. So let's get on with the show. Just before we start talking about what I'm wearing though, we have the LBK Nordic Cal, which is knitting and crochet related to knitting yarn or patterns that come from the Nordic countries. We have a hashtag on Instagram as well as a group on Ravelry for that. So the hashtag is the one that you see at the bottom of the screen. And if you want to go into the Ravelry group, it's in the Little Big Knits group, and there is a thread for it there for chat and finished objects. So I still haven't done the prizes for the Scrappy Stash email. I promise I'll get to that. It's been busy around here. I'd say my knitting has actually not been as prolific as usual, but I will get to the prizes of that soon. And then the Nordic Cal goes on until the end of March. So if you're knitting with Nordic yarn and or Nordic patterns, feel free to join in. And there will be prizes. Selma will get to them eventually. All right. And the other thing I wanted to mention was all your comments from last time. Lots of comments about how to stuff the gnome, and I just want you to know I went nowhere with the gnome, but I think I have a solution for the heavy bits at the bottom of the gnome. And so I am really expecting to finish that for next episode and show that to you. And you also, so thank you for all the suggestions, because there were lots of suggestions and lots of opinions about that. And also about my ranunculus, whether it was too short or it was just fine. And the reviews are really mixed, and I am still undecided. So I'm just gonna wait and see what happens if I wear it, if I find a way to wear it. And if I don't, then I'll definitely lengthen it a tiny bit with some similar pink mohair that I found at a local knitting shop. So a couple of comments on those things. Also down below, you'll find the show notes, a link to my Ko-fi page in case you want to support the podcast in a financial way. And also wanted to mention that I have 2 patterns on Ravelry. I rarely mention them, but I'm trying to get better at mentioning them. The Westboro hat, which you can see here, which is kind of a heavy fingering sport weight hat with bubbles on it. And I also have the West Village skirt, which is a recipe to help you figure out measurements and depending on the yarn that you have, as well as yarn recommendations. So it's more of a recipe. It's not telling you exactly what to do, but it's sort of walking you through the process of making a skirt that you can then make in any way you want for yourself. Mine's very simple, but nothing is stopping you from adding cables, from making it longer, from making it A-line, lots of things. So it's just a recipe there. All right, I think we're now ready to start with the knitting. So the only finished object I have for you today is a pair of socks. Look at that, fun goodness. So this is a pair of socks that you've seen in the last 2 episodes, I think. It's just a pair of vanilla socks. I basically think at one point I was making someone's pattern. I used to always make my socks toe up, and I had used the same recipe for the longest time. And at one point, I really didn't enjoy making top down, but I decided to make a pair of socks by somebody that was top down, and I've just used sort of the same recipe from that recipe ever since. And I've really come to enjoy cuff down socks because there's kind of a little bit more flexibility around the heel construction. You know, if you have a few more stitches or a few less stitches, you just kind of make it work. It's a little bit easier. So I've really been enjoying that. And I decided to follow what I had done on the plumage socks by Annina and do a slip stitch toe construction, which just makes for a super cozy toe and sort of also mirrors the slip stitch heel. But what is exciting about these socks is the yarn. So as you can see, in this one, the yarn has distributed more evenly, and in this one, there's a little bit more pooling. But that is the nature of this kind of dyeing technique, that you never quite know exactly what's going to happen. But I really, really like these a lot. I've decided that I'm going to try and make this a year of gift sock knitting as much as possible, because I didn't make socks for people this year. I did make 2 last-minute pairs of socks that were made out of tubes, and I don't even think I showed them to you guys. Did I show them to you last time? Anyway, and I sort of realized that there are some friends who really wait for my socks, and it just didn't happen last year. So I think that I thought this year is going to be a year of making socks for others. So you'll see a pair that's on the way in the whip section. But yeah, this yarn is the Butterfly Galaxies colorway, and you can see it's really fun actually, and the pooling makes it look like a galaxy, which is quite cool. This is the Butterfly Galaxies. It's the Basic Sock 2 by Lanitium Ex Machina. So she is a Finnish dyer, and I bought this yarn when I was in Finland in April. So yeah, it's been a lovely, lovely, very sturdy sock yarn to work with. I really like it. And I don't know if it's actually true, but when you feel a sock yarn and you feel a sturdiness to it, as opposed to one that just feels smooth and soft, I tend to think that these are going to last longer. I have no idea if that's actually true, because it really does depend on who's wearing them. I have one friend that tends to wear her socks out a lot, in one sock always of the pair. And I've given her all kinds of socks, but I think it depends on the way, you know, a person wears their socks. And, you know, just because it feels more woolly doesn't necessarily mean that it's stronger. I think it's just a perception more than anything. Sometimes it's hard to know. And then there are some socks that are really smooth feeling that are also long lasting. So I don't think there's certainly no science in what I'm saying, but there's just this feeling that somehow they are going to be longer lasting. But anyway, that is my finished object for you today. And what am I wearing? I forgot to start with that, but first, Gertie hasn't been on the show for a long time. She wanted to say hello. Today, it's a cup of my Ahmed cardamom tea, which is my favorite everyday tea. With a little bit of stevia and a little bit of milk. All right, what am I wearing? I am wearing something I made in the fall of 2022. And it is something I wear a lot. I love this piece. Love it. And it has kept up so beautifully. So first, the design. This is the Koyame, which is actually a sweater. I'll put up a picture here by Joanna Ang. I can't remember the exact gauge, but I think it was around 16. And it's just a beautiful, light, woolly sweater with this cable detail, kind of a shoulder, what do you call this, saddle shoulder construction, and then this cable detail that would normally go all the way down the sleeve, except that I shortened it and made it into kind of a short sleeve pullover type of thing. It also has this detail on the ribbing, which you can also, oh, no, you can't find it there or there, but it's on the ribbing. I'd forgotten about that. And I have just worn this thing so much. I've worn it with this blouse. I've worn it with a white blouse. And it's just a beautiful piece. And one thing, in addition to the nice construction, and I just find that this construction gives just a nice shoulder element. But the other thing about this is that it's made out of Nutiden yarn from Sweden, which is an unspun yarn, hand-dyed kind of unspun yarn. They release yarn about every couple of months, maybe every 3 months or so. They release a collection, and they're always different. The yarn colors are always different. They're never repeated. So this is a collection from a couple of years ago. This colorway was called Sinnen, and I combined it with a Shibui silk mohair of a similar color. I think it was called Vintage Rose or something like that. Shibui is no longer dyeing yarn. Don't know if somebody is destashing on Ravelry. I have a little bit left, but not a lot left. And so it was knit with one strand of Nutiden, one strand of the silk mohair, I think on like 5 or 5.5 millimeter needles. And it just created a beautiful, lightly warm, wonderful fabric. I just love this thing to death. And I have a little bit more Nutiden upstairs in pink, and I would very much like to make myself an actual sweater with it. And I think I will do the same thing where I have a strand of Nutiden and a strand of mohair, because I just feel that the mohair gives the Nutiden some strength. And it just creates a very nice fabric. And I don't know how Nutiden wears on its own, but there's a little tiny bit of pilling here, but way less than I thought there would be. And considering how much I have worn this item, now I'm going to sit here picking that. Considering how much I've worn this item, like the stitch definition has just remained so beautifully, and I just absolutely love this piece. So I thought, since I don't have a finished sweater today, I should wear something that I really enjoy and can talk about. So yeah, so this is the Koyame by Joanna Ang, knit in Nutiden with Shibui silk mohair. On to works in progress. First up is the Rivendell. This is a beautiful pattern, a recent pattern by Sari Nordland. And so this fits into the LBK Nordic Cal, by the way, because Sari is from Finland. And it's this sweater here. Only, like this, I am going to be turning the sweater into more of a slip-over vest type of thing. Some people, I think, said that they wouldn't consider this a vest. I consider it a vest just in the sense that it's a layering piece over a blouse. However, you know, maybe you would call it a slip over. I don't know. Whatever the case, I'm doing the same thing with the Rivendell. And partly because the yarn that I got for this, which is the Baremu Winterburn DK in this amazing red color. I got this, I believe, in the late fall of 2021. When I was in Fredericton visiting, and I bought this at a local yarn shop, and I bought it to make a vest. I made a vest, and I remember I told you about it last time. I believe, and I think somebody commented because I said it hugged in all the wrong places. It was just the most ill-fitting thing. Perhaps I could have blocked it. I don't know, but it just did not look good on me. So I stuck it in a corner, the naughty corner as we call it, and thought I'll just wait for an opportunity. And when the Rivendell came out, I thought, oh, the red yarn in that as a vest would be really nice. So I've been working away at this. This is actually slower. I haven't had as much time to knit, and I have a February challenge that includes knitting. So that's been taking up a bit of time every day, but I have finished the V-neck construction that has this beautiful cable detail down the bottom. I decided that I didn't want the cable detail to be quite as low, so I stopped it one short of the cable. I did one less cable and it worked out fine. I just followed the rest of the pattern as is, and yeah, it's just been fabulous. A beautiful, beautiful design. And the fabric, somehow I think with the other vest, it ended up being really tight. I'm using the same size needles, but this one is just light and lofty, and it's going to have a beautiful drape. And so, yeah, I've just been working on this. It's a beautiful construction, and it's just going to be gorgeous. So I had 4 skeins of this, and I'm getting close to finishing the 3rd. So I think that this is going to be taking up most of the 4 skeins that I bought. So even if I'd wanted to make this into a sweater, I wouldn't have had enough yarn. So there you go. That was meant to be originally a Christmas vest, and it will become a Christmas vest for next Christmas. So that's the first work in progress, and it is being held in this beautiful bag that my friend Jean had brought when I was in New Mexico, and she came to New Mexico as well. And speaking of New Mexico, actually, so in October of 2023, I gave a workshop on sweater modification at the Knitting New Mexico retreat at Ghost Ranch with my friend Lauren, who organized it. And Lauren is going to be hosting a retreat again this year. It actually starts, I believe, on Labor Day weekend, actually, like September 1st or whatever the Sunday is, and it goes until Wednesday. It's a 3-night retreat at the absolutely stunning location of Ghost Ranch again. And this year she has Bristol Ivy teaching, so that will be really, really interesting. And I will, in case you're interested in going this year, I'll make sure to post on the YouTube channel when it is up, and I'll probably do it on my Instagram as well, so that if you're interested in going, you will be more forewarned than last year, because last year there wasn't a whole lot of time that was given, and we're a little bit smarter this year about that. So just wanted to mention that as a little aside. All right, my next work in progress is in this bag that I stitched up last year and I absolutely love. And I really, really do. I love the size. It's great for something that's a 1 skein project. And I just really enjoy it. And I'm really proud of it, I think. So in here is the Giselle Hat. I showed you last time that I was working on the blue part, which is out of Felicipunto yarns that I got at Barcelona Knits. And this is a beautiful alpaca silk cashmere base, incredibly lush. And I got it in this really dark navy blue. The Giselle Hat is a 2-layered hat with a DK yarn for the inside and a mohair for the outside. And so I have started the mohair bit, and the way it's going to work is that the mohair, which actually folds over the stockinette portion really easily, the mohair will be over that. And so you'll see I've chosen this gray yarn, gray mohair. You'll see the navy blue coming through, and it'll just help with the stitch definition on the gray mohair. So I started the lace portion of the hat, and it took me a while to start it because I was like, what color do I want? And I decided to go with a color that's basically goes with my coat. So this will go really well with my coat. This is about the color of my winter coat, but I also have a navy blue winter coat. So I thought, you know what, even though I'm not wearing the navy blue winter coat as much because it's got a little bit of a rip in it, I think I might patch that up and continue to wear it, and I'll have a hat that'll match both. The mohair is this Lang Mohair Looks Lamy. Lang Mohair Looks Lamy. And it's actually this gray that has, I don't know that you'll see it on camera, but it's actually got a little bit of glitter in it. It's got little bits of silver going through it. So it's just beautiful. I've worked with this before. I made a ranunculus out of it. And so now it's going into this hat, and I have more of it. I think I found some at one point and bought some because I just love it so much. It's just like, for me, the perfect gray. So it may go into something else as well. But for now, it's going into the Giselle Hat, which I haven't had a chance to finish, but I'm really enjoying this. I love this kind of easy lace. It's just really, really pleasant to work on. So I think that this will be definitely finished before my next episode. It's being knit on 3.5mm needles. And yeah, it's just going really great. So I'm really curious to see how this fits afterwards. And I'm just loving it. So lovely, lovely idea. And the designer, I should tell you, is Camilla Hoyer Adamson from Cami Jo Yarns or Cami Jo Knits. And yeah, it's one of her designs, and I made her Giselle shawl from very different colors. And then now there's the Giselle hat. So really kind of a similar idea that you have in her shawl. She has one side that's fingering and one side that is mohair. So yeah, that's work in progress number 2. Very much enjoying that. Work in progress number 3 is a pair of socks that's being housed in this bag that I made years ago when I had a shop called Little Creek Designs on Etsy, and I used to make bags. This is one from back then. And as I said, the year is going to be a year of making socks for others. So I have this skein of yarn that I actually also got in Fredericton at the same time as the red Winterburn DK, which was the Wesley Bob colorway, by the way. I probably put it on the screen already. So this week I needed some kind of like easy knitting to happen at one point. I think I was running out somewhere and I thought I'm gonna need to sit around and wait for a bit. So I decided to just take this along, grabbed it from my stash, and I thought I'll just start knitting a pair of socks that will become somebody's sock at some point. And yeah, it's just this very sort of earthy colors together. So I cast on 60 stitches with 2.25mm needles. I am on the leg portion, just doing a bunch of stockinette. I don't count my rows. I tend to kind of gauge, this is about how long I want this pair to be. I'll count the rows for the second sock so that they match, but I don't generally count the rows as I'm going down the leg. But yeah, so that is work in progress number 3. A little backstory about this next one. So my January challenge, if you may recall that I decided to do a monthly challenge. And in January, I did a yoga every day with Yoga with Adrian, which went supremely well. And I also did a month of frugality. So I really didn't buy non-essential things. The only thing I gave myself permission to buy was the right blue yarn if I found it. And I'm gonna show you later because I did. And so those were my 2 challenges of January. They went really, really well. And what I find is interesting is that when you do something like that, the feeling that you gain from that thing, like the sort of the overarching feeling of it sort of lingers. So I'm finding myself overall being more frugal. You know, like the other day I was looking at something and I thought, I don't need that right now. I just didn't buy it. Whereas in the past I might have just bought it. So I'm kind of enjoying that. My theme for February is to work on an old whip, finish at least one whip, but once I finish this whip, then I'll go on to the next whip that have been lingering. I've got a few whips that have been lingering around for a while. And then the other challenge that I have for February is to read every day. To read a physical book or a physical magazine every day. And I just really want to read, but I often don't. I just end up knitting more or I end up scrolling on my phone. So I decided that in February, I want to be spending the last part of my evenings reading. And I've actually also put a limit on my Instagram of an hour a day because I just thought I don't want to be spending my time like that. I want to be enjoying, not that there's lots of beautiful stuff and I'm very inspired by Instagram, but it can become this kind of thing where you're just scrolling and then it's an hour later and it becomes kind of numbing more than inspiring. And I want that time on Instagram to be inspiring, and also for connection with other people, because I do have, you know, I do chat with people on Instagram. So reading every day is also making that a lot easier. But in this bag, which is a bag that I made years ago out of some beautiful wool tartan fabric that I got at a flea market, a fabric flea market, is a lingering whip that if you've been around for a while, you may remember. This was a stash busting, and I don't even know when I started this actually. This was a stash busting project, and it's actually a pillow cover. So I've got these large IKEA pillows, and I created this project to fit one of these pillows, which I believe are 19 inches. So this should be 19 by 19 very soon. So when I stopped working on this project, and it might have been earlier in 2023, or what, I don't remember exactly when, but certainly when I broke my wrist, this was definitely not going to be one of my projects because it's not very pleasant to work on. I'm knitting it on 4.5 or 5 millimeter needles with 3 strands, and I'm doing garter in the round, which means that every second row is purling. And it's just not, it's kind of tight, not to knit with, not the most pleasant. So when I hurt my wrist, this was definitely not something that I could pick up because it's a bit of a straining knit. And I had abandoned it sort of towards the end of the orange segment there. And so I decided that for February, I was going to pick this up. I knit a couple of rows every evening, and I think I don't have a lot left. I think I maybe have, you know, 2 inches or 4 centimeters about left before I am ready to finish it off. And I'll probably do a 3 needle bind off. I think I'm just going to put a pillow in it and sew it closed. I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't think I'm going to put a zipper in it. And yeah, it's going to be a pillow for our sofa in the basement, sort of our TV room. Sofa is gray. All the other pillows are orange. And there is a wall hanging that's sort of black and orange. So there's a theme here. And I had a lot of this yarn here, which is Patons Croy. It's this stuff. I had a whole bunch of this that I had bought thinking that we were going to have this knit along with a group of women, and then it didn't happen. So this is color 2021-02. I don't actually know what color this is. I can't quite understand their label. There are multiple colors. 57510 perhaps. So in this section here, there are 3 strands of it, and it's a bit of a gradient kind of yarn. And then here I put 1 strand of the orange Patons Croy, 1 strand of this Jameson Smith kind of like dark charcoal color. It's not black, it's kind of charcoal. And then 1 strand of this. And I'm gonna have to stop when this finishes or find another gray in my stash that I can steal from a little bit. And this is a sock yarn that I got many, many moons ago from the Belfast Mini Mills in Prince Edward Island. And I never made it into socks because it never felt like it would really be a strong enough sock yarn. I think I was always a little nervous about it. So I decided, well, you know what? Let's use it in this pillow because it will be very nice. You know, it'll be nice. It'll be the gray that I'm looking for. So yeah. So this is something that I'm working on every day. And as a result, it's sort of slowing me down, I think, on the Rivendell, because that's time I would normally spend on the Rivendell, but I'm really, really excited to get this done. And I didn't like the fact that it was lingering around. So once this is done, I'll be picking up another project that has been sitting around for a while. We'll see what that ends up being. I do think that in the next week, this will probably be finished. So hopefully I'll be able to show this to you on the next episode. The next project hasn't started yet, but I just wanted to show you. I decided that I wanted to make a pair of fingerless gloves, or fingerless mitts, I should say, for a neighbor of mine. We chat a lot. She's really lovely. And she spends a lot of time outside and she never has anything on her hands. So I thought, why don't I make her some fingerless gloves? So I was in Montreal last weekend, seeing friends and my son. And I ended up going into La Maison Tricotée and buying this yarn Illimani Feli, which is 70% ultrafine merino and 30% cashmere. And it's just this, I've already wound it up because I'm gonna get going on it. When I finish the Giselle Hat, I'll probably be using those mittens to start on with this yarn. And I'm going to be making the Duke City mitts, which is a pattern by my friend Dagmar, also known as Paper Dag. It's a free pattern for these fingerless gloves or mitts. They're called mitts. So I'm going to be using this. And what's interesting about that pattern is that it comes in a variety of gauges. She gives you lots of different options. So check it out if you're looking for a sort of everyday fingerless mitten pattern. I'm looking forward to making them. I just saw one of her episodes recently because she has a podcast. Oh my gosh, suddenly the name of her podcast has escaped me. Hello, but I'll put it down here. She's also the dyer behind Zia Wools. So, and I met Dag in person at Ghost Ranch at the retreat in the fall. So yeah, so this is one of her patterns because she does have several patterns, and I'll be making those and casting that on very soon. Must find a little project bag for it to do that. So that is all my works in progress. I wanted to share next some new patterns that have come into my life in the last month, as well as some new yarns that have come into my life this month, and some other good things from recent times that I want to share with you. But that is the end of the actual knitting content. So if you're off, take care. I'll see you next time. If you're sticking around for the rest of it, off we go. All right, just before I start this, there's gonna be family sounds, and my neighbor seems to be playing music rather loudly this morning. So you may be hearing her music. She has good taste, so that at least is a good thing for me. All right, new patterns in my library. One that I forgot, actually two that I forgot to share with you last time. And so I wanted to make sure. One is this lovely pattern that was gifted to me by the designer, Vanessa, is the flower sweater. Vanessa is known also as Tricot Meringue. And on Instagram, she's Vagabond Travel and Knit, I believe. And she designed this really beautiful sweater that I had already noticed. So when she gave it to me, I was like, oh, thank you. Because I'd been sort of looking at it thinking, this is a really beautiful sweater. Nice concept to it in the color work. It is a top-down color work sweater in DK. So it just is kind of like in a very modern kind of take on the color work, and really lovely. So thank you so much for that, Vanessa. The next two patterns are by Jackie Pirota. The first is the Bandon socks that she came out with recently. It's a beautiful pair of socks that has kind of a detail up the side of each of the socks. And that is really, really lovely. And then the other one that she gifted to me is a shawl called All the Hedgehogs. And it is a lovely shawl where you are striping mohair and fingering. And there's also a cable detail in the fingering section. And it's a sort of a shawlette, I would say more. It's not very big, but it's a nice thing to sort of wrap around. So thank you for that, Jackie. The next pattern was actually gifted to me by my friend Sue. So thank you, Sue. And these are the Njord DK socks. well, are they called Njord, or is that actually pronounced Nord? I don't know. But this is a design by another friend, Nancy Wheeler. You may know Nancy's patterns. She's a great sock designer. And so this is a DK weight sock pattern that she has designed. And the yarn, which is a stunning color, is the Njord colorway by Cami Jo Yarns. So beautiful, beautiful combination of two of my friends. So yeah, and thank you for that, Sue. So like all my friends in there. It was just a really lovely, lovely gift. So thank you. The next one is the Rue sweater by Rebecca Clow. You may know Rebecca Clow. She has a fabulous array of designs. She's a prolific sweater designer and makes sweaters that have really nice fit. So this is her recent design called the Rue. It's a DK weight top-down colorwork sweater that is just really lovely. I keep thinking I would like this in kind of fun colors, but it could also be a really nice sweater for a man. I find this to be a really nice unisex sweater. And many of her designs are, they're not all, but she has several of her designs that are unisex, and that I really, really appreciate. I think that it's a lovely feature because that's certainly one thing I have heard people who want to knit men's designs complain about, that there aren't many designs that are really geared towards that type of a body type. So yeah, really great that she's doing that. And I had to get the pattern because it's just so beautiful. The other two sweaters I bought the other day in February. All the ones that I purchased were purchased in February. And that is two patterns by, her name is Masha Zova, and she had a sale the other day. I showed you one of her patterns, one or two of her patterns when I did the romantic knits a few months ago. And she just came out with this pattern called the Kinneret sweater. It's a very simple kind of raglan design, but I was just so drawn to it. It's knit out of Drops Air, and I think that's it. I am really wanting a fluffy sweater. I should probably start with the Knitted In because that will certainly have some of that feeling. It's not really fluffy. I wouldn't call it fluffy, but some of that kind of like cozy woolly factor, I think. So it's knit at a sort of chunkier gauge, 16 or something like that. I can't quite remember. So that will definitely get made at one point. I've really been wanting to knit with something like Drops Air or Illimani Amelie, or there's so many yarns like that, and I would love, love to have a sweater knit in something like that. And the other one that I bought is this cardigan pattern by her, which is lovely, one of her very feminine designs. It's knit out of 2 strands of mohair, and it's called the Tender Leaves cardigan. And it's just beautiful, feminine, and there were lots of really nice versions on Ravelry. So I thought, you know, I could see myself making this out of like a dark gray mohair or something that could be good every day. The Mega Diamonds cardigan that I made last year in 2022, I believe. I'll put a picture here, that was made out of this very chunky mohair that was from Cami Jo Yarns, and it's also one of Camilla's designs. I love that cardigan, and every time I wear it, I get compliments and people want to touch it. And so I thought it would be really nice to have another one. Are you coming to say hello? So yeah, so those are some of the patterns that have come into my life in the recent times. So wanted to share that with you. So now on to the good things, the pretty things that have come into my life, which includes yarn and fabric. So in my search for the perfect blue, I bought these skeins of Knitting for Olive. So this is the Knitting for Olive merino and the Knitting for Olive mohair in the blue or poppy blue. And I thought maybe this is the right blue. And then when I came home, I was like, this is not the blue that I'm looking for. This is a beautiful blue, but it's not the blue that I had in my head. So I had lost the receipt. And I actually bought another one as well at the same time. I bought this Rauma. That's also really beautiful. It's got a little bit more of a purpley in it. Really, really stunning. But I lost the receipt and I was like, darn, I wanted to take it back because I kind of thought like this is not what I wanted to do, is accumulate a whole bunch of blues. So I bought them at Wabi Sabi and I just thought, you know what? This is probably going to become one of two things, either a Sophie scarf, a second Sophie scarf, because I love my Sophie scarf, or it might become the Bis Bis Beret by Sari Nordland. Amy Palco of the Meaningful Stitch made one recently, and Sari just made a second, or I don't know what version it is, but she made another one recently on her most recent episode. She showed it and I was just like, I would love a beret. I don't know that I want a blue beret. Maybe I want a blue Sophie scarf, or it could become a gift. I actually have a friend who I think this would look really, really good on, so I may make a hat for her out of that. So it's not lost. I'll see what I do with the other one, the Pheno, but I did eventually find what I was looking for. So I'm going to show you the fabric that I'm getting. This is going to become my blue Stockholm slipover. And it's just a light blue. I would say this is not 100% what I have in my head, but I started to realize, you know, am I going to find that? It's definitely, I would say this is 90% of what I was looking for. And I thought, I'm just going to be good with that. This is way brighter and darker than I intended it to be. It's sort of more in the direction of a royal blue, and that's not what I wanted. But I really wanted to have just a nice, bright, light blue that was not turquoisey and that was not purpley, because they just seem to often go in one of those directions. And I think I found it. So what I am doing is combining two blues here. One is it's actually a lace weight. So I am swatching with 2 strands of this. And this is a merino silk blend by Juniper Moon Farms, and it's the Findlay base. And it has 798. So with each one, I've got plenty. And then the mohair is a Katia mohair. So they're slightly different. This has a tiny bit of purpliness to it. This is pretty neutral, I would say. And this is the Katia. Let me see if I have the shade. This is from their 50 shades, and this is color 31. And together, I'm really, really liking the blue that's coming out. So I'm just swatching. I haven't picked this up in a while. I'll finish the swatch as I get closer to the end of the Rivendell, and I'll probably be casting this on as a Stockholm slipover once the Rivendell is done. And I would love to have this for the spring as a lovely vest with a white blouse, which just seems to be my uniform. I love a shirt with a vest. It's just one of those things. And so, yeah. The other thing that I'm really itching to have in my wardrobe is a basic raglan sweater that I can just wear over anything. And that's what I intend to make with the pink Nutiden yarn. And I'll share more about that when I get to that. So I think those are the 2 things that are probably going to get cast on next. I have so many things that I want to make. I feel like the year is not long enough for all the things that I want to make this year. So I'm just trying to pace myself. And I think the Rivendell it was a nice medium challenge sweater. It was an interesting sweater to make, or it has been an interesting sweater to make with the detail here and the way it was constructed. It was just like, oh, this was really, you know, really interesting. And this will be more of a comfort knit. So, and just an easy everyday knit. But I'm also wanting a colorwork sweater. So I decided that my birthday, which is in June, a colorwork sweater is getting cast on if it hasn't been cast on before then. I've been wanting to make the Pink Velvet by Andrea Mowry. I've had the yarn for 2 years, and so that is getting done. If I haven't cast on a colorwork sweater before then, that will get cast on. But in the meantime, I will get going with the Stockholm slipover. I'm very excited about this color. I don't know, you know, it's not that it's anything supremely exciting, but this is what I had in my head. So that will get done. The other night, I had some friends over and one brought some yarn to destash. I can't remember where she'd gotten it. She'd gotten it from somebody who was trying to get rid of yarn, and she thought she'll bring it in case anybody wanted something. And there was this bright pink Patton's Grace. And I could not say no to it. I thought, you know what? I'm going to take it because I've knit with the Patton's Grace. I made my second Corin cardigan by Rebecca Clow out of it. And it's a lovely, lovely fabric that it creates. And I thought a bright pink summer top, I can't say no to that. So we'll see what ends up coming from this, but that has been added to my stash as well. So that's all the yarny goodness. Now for the fabric goodness. This first bundle of fabrics actually broke my frugality fast. My frugality fast. I have been following this woman on Instagram who is a quilter. Her name on Instagram is Quilts Cornerstone, and I'll put some images from her Instagram feed here. And she's actually just come out with a book called Collage to Quilt, where she talks about her process and walks you through it. And I'm hoping that I'll have a chance to get my hands on that at some point. Her name is Sarah Hibbert, and I just love her work. And I thought I would really like to make something for the wall decorative that would be a quilt. And I happened upon this person who on Instagram, actually, I don't know, I think it's Botanica Tinctoria on Instagram as well, or somebody had bought her stuff. And I was like, ooh, that's exactly what I need. So I went to her site and I ended up buying 3 bundles of, I think she's out of Toronto actually. I ended up buying 3 bundles of pieces of naturally dyed linen that I hope to experiment with. And I think that my first one I might do in other fabrics just to get a hang of it. And then I might start cutting into, there's just all kinds of different colors in here. I wanted more warmer colors than anything, but I also love the mustard, for example. So this is, the fabrics are absolutely stunning. They're linen. And they're just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And she sells you these bundles of naturally dyed linen packs. And she also sells linen by the meter or the yard as well. But I just wanted different colors of linen pieces. And I thought, if I go around trying to find pieces of linen, this is going to take forever. And then when I found this, I was like, well, this is kind of perfect. So yeah, I had to get this, and I don't have a lot of time these days. My life is quite busy. There's a lot going on, but hopefully I'll get some time in the next few months to really work on this and start playing with this concept, because her work this woman, Sarah Hibbert's work just really blew me away. And then my friend Megha from Skeins of Dreams. You may know if you follow her that she was in India for a short visit and managed to bring back gifts and sent me a package in which there were these delicious Indian sweets, which I'm trying not to eat too quickly. Really beautiful nut-based Indian sweets. And she also sent, I think there are, if I remember correctly, 3.5 meters of this stunning organic cotton. So, oh, I just love this. And yeah, so I I want to sew myself a garment this year. That's one of my goals, if you recall. And so don't know that this will be my first garment because I'm not 100% sure. But the garment that I had in mind that I wanted to make this year is a fairly simple garment. And I thought if that works out well, then I might consider doing something a little bit more complicated. Because I could see this being a rather interesting dress. Really beautiful. Lovely. So thank you for that, Mika. So that is all the fiber goodness that came into my life. Just wanted to mention a couple of other things that have been really, really interesting. I haven't talked to you guys about books in a long time. I have to say in 2022, my book listening really slowed down. I don't know why exactly. My walks, I definitely walked a lot, but I just listened to books less. I think I was doing other things. I was often chatting with friends, I have to say, on my walks. So I just didn't read or listen to books as much. But one book that I finished recently that I was listening to in 2023, and it took me a while, is a nonfiction book by Gabor Mate. Gabor Mate is a Hungarian-Canadian medical doctor who also writes books, and I think he's worked a lot with addiction. But he wrote a book recently called The Myth of Normal. It's quite a tome, and it was a long listen. It was very, very interesting. At times, I needed to take a little break from it because it was a little bit intense about health and our society. It's called The Myth of Normal because it's really questioning what we have created as normal in our society. You know, it doesn't take long when you start thinking about the crazy things that we've created in our world to realize is that really normal? So he's really talking a lot about that and talking about, you know, how this new normal in some ways is making us sick and what we need to do to sort of like get beyond that. It was really, really interesting, questioning a lot of conventions, really, really interesting. So if you're interested in health or that kind of thing, it might be for you. I've since started listening to a book by Miriam Tays called Women Talking. I went to see the movie that was made, directed by Sarah Pollock last year, or Sarah Polley, I think is her name, called Women Talking. It was based on Miriam Tays' book, and I think they worked together to make the movie, and I really loved the movie a lot. It was not an easy subject. It's a subject about a group of women. They don't ever mention in the movie, but it is a Mennonite community, and it's based on a true story of women who were abused in a Bolivian Mennonite community. And the story is really this discussion between a group of women within this community deciding on how they're going to react to the situation that's going on, to the abusive situation that's going on. And I just loved the dialogue. I loved this discussion about how to respond to this, the different emotions, the taking the time to have these conversations, to really contemplate. I loved the movie, and I would normally never do this, but I thought I really want to read the book. So I started listening to the book, and I'm really enjoying it very, very much. And I just think it's such an interesting story because I don't think, and I think that it was very smart of Sarah Polley never to really talk about which community it was, because I don't think that that's important. Or I shouldn't say that. I don't think that that is necessarily, it's not meant to be an attack on a community, but I think it's just such an interesting exploration about when you're faced with a situation that is truly unacceptable, how do you decide what to do? And it's just really interesting discussion around that. So I'm really enjoying it. It's not a long book, unlike The Myth of Normal. I think I'll be finishing it quite quickly, and I'm really enjoying listening to it. So yeah, that's as far as books go. Other things that have been wonderful. We finished the third season of Lupen, which is a French series with Omar Sy. It's a really great series. It's lots of fun. It's a little bit silly at times, but I really, really have enjoyed that. And a couple of last little good things that I wanted to mention. I don't know if you watched the Grammys. I did not watch the Grammys, but it was very clear that one of the biggest hits of the evening was a duet between Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs, the, I believe, country singer. And I can't tell you, I have watched their performance like at least 5 times. Absolutely loved it. And it's such a great song, and she's such a beautiful singer. And it just took me back to, I remember when that song came out, and I remember the first time I saw, I think, you know, we all watched music videos at that time, and I was in Finland in my cousin's place, and the video came on TV, and I remember being mesmerized by it. And it was just such a great song, and she has such a captivating and beautiful way of performing it. So yeah, that has just been a beautiful thing to watch over and over again. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about was this cookbook. So I decided, and I probably won't stick to this actually, because as I said, life is busy these days. So I think I was being a little bit unrealistic there, but I thought I would do a cookbook challenge as well, which I did not mention to you last time, I believe. I thought every month I'm going to choose a cookbook and I'm going to make recipes from it. And I really enjoyed doing my January one, but I'm like, it's not happening in February. But the cookbook that I chose was this book by Ottolenghi called Test Kitchen Extra Good Things. And I can't tell you, wow, like his recipes, he's kind of a genius. The combinations are just, for the most part, like, I think there was one recipe that I made that was good, but everything else that I made was like amazing. Really strong, bold flavors. This is not, you know, if you're not into bold flavors, definitely not your thing. He combines different Middle Eastern traditions, often, not always, but maybe North African as well, but a lot of the Eastern traditions. He's Israeli originally, so I think his first recipes were very much a celebration of Israel and perhaps that area. I'd say it's become more of a sort of like overall Middle East, and just amazing, amazing flavors. So many good recipes. Definitely 2 of the 6 that I made, 2 of the 5 or 6 that I made, I'm like, we need to eat that again, like soon, because they were just so good. So that was another good thing that I wanted to mention. So yeah, so those are the things that I just wanted to mention today. It's been a busy time here. And as a result, between being busy and the weather being just kind of like nondescript, I have no footage for you today. I have nothing to show you. So I think we'll just end it here today. And maybe I'll leave you with a song, just so you can have a song. Maybe if I find an image or 2, perhaps I'll put them there for you. But I actually have not been out for a nice walk. Like, I haven't been out to the forest. We haven't had beautiful weather. It was very gray for a long time. Well, there you go. You got a little bit of Yoda. I went to Montreal. I didn't even take any footage when I was there because it was actually really busy. So I was like, wow, I have nothing. So I'll just leave you there today, and I'll pick a song for you to listen to if you feel like it. And perhaps I'll find some sort of an image for there, but maybe I'll just leave it, and hopefully next time I'll have been able to do something and actually think to take my camera out and do a little bit of filming. But last weekend when I went to Montreal, it was busy, and I just didn't have the time to think about that. So I did go to La Maison Tricotée where I bought this, and I did go to Espace Tricot, and I didn't buy anything there. But I was just in and out between things. I just didn't have the time. So that's the way the cookie crumbled this time. I hope though that you've had time for some making, you've had time for some relaxing, and it's been lovely to spend some time with you, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
My